if we take a look at the must be true questions, guys, it's a pretty significant question stem. Historically, this is probably the most common logical reasoning question type, although in recent years it's slid a little bit in its preeminence on this section. But starting with the must be true standard that we have up here, and this is this idea that what you're looking for, guys, is an answer choice. If we look at some of these question stems down below, if the statements above in the stimulus are true, which one of the following must also be true? That's the classic wording in these question stems. Or what can be properly inferred from the passage? Or which of the following conclusions can be properly drawn on the basis of that stimulus? So it's a top-down logical flow in each of these. And as you guys look at that phrase, must be true, what's the word that stands out to you logically? Yeah, the word must. And the word must, as we talked about before, guys, conveys certainty. And that's exactly what must be true questions are looking for. So if you're looking for a pre-phrase for must be true, guys, it's basically this. Based on the information in the stimulus, which of these answer choices am I certain is true? Which of these answer choices can I prove is true from the information in the stimulus? Okay, that's the fact test that you see down at the bottom of the page. The correct answer on any must be true question must be something you can prove by looking at the information in the stimulus. You don't need anything else. In fact, guys, if it requires that you bring in outside information to prove that answer choice, that's automatically incorrect. It has to be something that you only need what's up above to prove the truth of that. Okay? These do tend not to have arguments in the stimuli. They tend to be a collection of facts. In reality, guys, if you want to bring it back to argumentation, they're giving you premises and you're finding an answer that would represent a conclusion that would be valid to draw from that. Not that you have to think that way. It's really just, you can really fall back to whatever I can prove is what's going to be correct. Okay. Must be true questions, guys, while they are very significant within logical reasoning, they're also really huge in reading comprehension. In fact, the vast majority of questions on reading comp, as we'll see next week, are going to be must be true questions in some way, shape, or form. And a lot of logic games questions are worded this way too. So it is truly the backbone question stem on this test overall. The most strongly supported questions is really just this last example here on the list of question stems. You notice that the way they word this, it's still a top-down approach where you're using the stimulus above, and you're accepting its truth, but now you're looking for which answer is most strongly supported by the stimulus. And so that waffles a little bit on the certainty of the language. So you don't have to find an answer that's necessarily provable. It can be just something that's very, very likely to be true. That would qualify in those questions. But as the book points out, guys, and I certainly reiterate, there's most of the questions that are worded this way, the correct answer still is provably true. And so most of the most strongly supported questions operate exactly like must be true. But they do give the LSAT a little bit of an out that your correct answer might just be the most likely of the bunch. But truly, at the very least, guys, what you usually see is one of the answers is very, very likely to be true and the other ones aren't at all. So with the must be true questions, guys, what you often will see from incorrect answers, there's a number of categories here highlighted in the book that not every incorrect answer is going to fall into one of these, but probably most of them will. So these are just some of the common patterns that we see within incorrect answers here. But ultimately, guys, what all of these have in common is there are things you can't prove. So it might be something that is just merely possible or probable, yet not certain. That would be incorrect here. It doesn't have to be false, right? Keep in mind, guys, must be true is asking for what you can prove is true. That doesn't mean the incorrect answers are things that are false. They're just things you can't prove are true. Okay? You see a lot of number 2 and number 3. Exaggerated answers and new info answers, right? Look at, basically with number 2, guys, look at the wording of the answer choice. Many incorrect answers are very strongly worded. The stronger you word the statement, the harder it is to prove. Okay? New info. If an answer brings in some idea that the stimulus never raised, there's a very good chance that that is incorrect. Because if the stimulus gives you a bunch of facts about dogs, how are you going to prove a claim about cats without at least mentioning them? So that is typically a sign of an incorrect answer. But be careful here, guys. Sometimes they'll raise an issue that seems like new information, but it might fall under an umbrella term or idea that was raised in the stimulus. You know, they may not have mentioned cats by name, but they talked about all mammals have fur or something like that. Well, cats would fall under mammals, and so you would know, for example, that cats have fur, if that were the case. Okay. Shell game answers. This is very common, not just in must be true questions, guys, but elsewhere. These are answers that kind of prey on people who aren't reading closely enough. So they will raise an idea or a concept in the stimulus and then give you a very, very similar idea in one of the answer choices, but one that is fundamentally different and therefore not provable. Sometimes they may even look the same, like heart disease and overall health. Right? They're in the ballpark together, but they're not the same. And so what's true of one is not necessarily true of the other. Okay. Reverse answers, we're going to see more of those in lesson 2. That really brings in mostly a conditional reasoning issue. So I'll leave that for then. But opposite answers, guys, I think this is what people would expect more of, honestly, on must be true questions, is that these would be the patently false answers. Answers that you can prove are false or answers that you know can't be true. Now, not every answer has to do that, but some will, that they're the exact opposite of what you're looking for. Okay. The one thing is, though, guys, while these may be obvious many of the times because they're the exact opposite, the LSAT can make something the exact opposite with a very strategic placement of a negative term. And if you're reading too quickly, sometimes these seemingly very obvious incorrect answers can often look like exactly what you're looking for. And so they can rope you in. So just be careful with that. That can happen from time to time. All right, guys, and I'm sure everybody's very eager to actually get into some actual questions. So let's take a look at question 1 here together.